Long before the first map was drawn, human explorers crossed entire continents, guided only by the stars. This is the story of mapping the sky routes that guided prehistoric explorers, the celestial pathways our ancestors followed into the unknown. You will learn the forgotten art of navigating by starlight, a skill that allowed humanity to populate the world. How did ancient travelers cross thousands of miles of trackless ocean without a single compass? What myths did they weave to remember the way? By the end, you will see the night sky not as a random scattering of lights, but as a detailed map etched into human memory. What part of our own world do you think we have forgotten how to see? The sky was not a mystery to them, but a living clock and compass. For prehistoric explorers, the most vital skill was learning to read its constant, predictable motions. In the north, one star held a unique and unwavering position. Polaris, the North Star, became the ultimate anchor point. No matter the season or the hour, it remained fixed in the sky, a celestial pivot around which all other stars appeared to slowly turn. By simply locating this single, steady point of light, a traveler could instantly know which way was north, a fact that transformed disorientation into confident direction. During the day, the sun performed the same essential service, rising reliably in the east and setting in the west, its arc across the heavens marking not just the hours but the cardinal directions. For those venturing into the southern hemisphere where Polaris dipped below the horizon, another constellation took its place as a guide. The Southern Cross, with its distinct shape and pointer stars, indicated the direction to the south celestial pole. Even the moon played its part, its changing phases and predictable path providing a secondary rhythm for tracking time and maintaining a course through the night. This was the primal genius of celestial navigation. It did not require complex tools, only deep, patient observation. Our ancestors learned to see past the apparent chaos of 1,000 twinkling lights to find the underlying order. They identified the fixed markers and the reliable cycles, turning the entire dome of the sky into a grand, rotating map. With this foundational understanding of the celestial compass, we can now trace the first and most important of the sky roads they followed. The Great Bear, prowling the northern sky, offered the first and most reliable road. Its 7 brightest stars form a shape many know as the Big Dipper, a celestial ladle that does far more than hold starlight. The 2 stars at the front of its bowl act as celestial pointers, drawing a direct, unwavering line to a single, steadfast star. This is Polaris, the pivot of the northern heavens. While all other stars wheeled and danced through the night, this one star remained frozen in place, a fixed point of absolute north. For a traveler in a vast, trackless forest or on a featureless plain, finding this star meant finding your bearings in a disorienting world. Its position was so constant that it even told you how far you had traveled. By observing how high Polaris stood above the horizon, an explorer could gauge their latitude. The higher the star, the farther north they had journeyed, a simple yet profound celestial altimeter. This knowledge was so vital that cultures wove it directly into their myths. The Greeks told of the nymph Callisto, transformed into the Great Bear by a jealous goddess forever circling the pole of the sky. These stories were not merely entertainment, they were memory aids, ensuring that the crucial map of the Ursa Major to Polaris route was passed down, unchanged through countless generations. It was this sky road that guided the great transcontinental migrations, a shimmering path etched in legend and starlight that led our ancestors across continents. But beneath the equator, the North Star vanishes below the horizon, and an entirely different set of guides takes command of the night. While the northern sky had its Great Bear, the southern seas held a different kind of guide. Here, below the equator, the celestial pivot point is not marked by a single bright star, but by a small, distinct constellation known as the Southern Cross. Its four main stars form a cross that seems to tilt and swing through the night, and its long axis acts as a celestial arrow. If you extend this line 4.5 times its own length, you reach the approximate location of the South Celestial Pole, the true anchor of the southern sky. This was not a solitary signpost, however. Flanking the cross are two brilliant stars, Alpha and Beta Centauri, often called the Pointers. They act as a verifier, a second confirmation of the southern direction, ensuring a navigator was never relying on a single, potentially misleading clue. For the Polynesian voyagers who conquered the Pacific, this was not just a pattern in the sky, it was the central feature of a living, breathing map. They understood that the sky was not a static picture but a rotating sphere. As their canoes sailed vast distances, they watched the heavens change. Constellations they knew from home would slowly sink beneath the eastern horizon, while new, unfamiliar stars would rise in the west. This was not a cause for alarm, but a vital part of their navigation. They had memorized the star paths for every season and for every latitude, knowing exactly which star would crown a specific island's volcano at a particular time of year. This knowledge was preserved not in written charts, but in intricate oral traditions. Chants and songs encoded the precise rising and setting points of hundreds of stars, turning abstract astronomy into a practical, life-sustaining skill. A single chant could contain the navigational instructions for a voyage of thousands of miles, a rhythmic map passed from master to apprentice. It was this sophisticated, dynamic understanding of the rolling sky that allowed them to find specks of land in an ocean that spans a third of the planet, populating islands from Hawaii to New Zealand. Yet the stars were not the only lights that carved paths across the world. The sun itself laid down the most fundamental and universal routes of all. The sun carved its own roads across the earth, highways of light defined by the turning of the year. While the stars gave direction, the sun provided the schedule, its solstices and equinoxes acting as immutable calendar markers. At the height of summer, the sun would reach its northernmost rising point, a day celebrated as the summer solstice. 6 months later, at the winter solstice, it would rise at its most southern extreme. These were not abstract astronomical events. They were the starting pistol for mass migration. Hunter-gatherer societies lived by this solar clock, following herds to lush summer pastures or moving to sheltered winter valleys as the sun's path across the sky grew shorter and lower. Their survival depended on being in the right place at the right time, and the sun told them when to go. To mark these critical turning points with absolute precision, prehistoric societies built stone computers. Monuments like Stonehenge in England and Newgrange in Ireland were engineered with breathtaking accuracy. Their massive stones frame the solstice sunrise and sunset, capturing the first and last light of these pivotal days. The long processional avenue leading to Newgrange is perfectly aligned with the winter solstice dawn, so that for a few brief minutes, a shaft of sunlight illuminates the deepest, darkest chamber of the tomb. These were not just temples, they were colossal surveying instruments, fixing the solar highways in stone for all time. But the sun's guidance was also for the here and now. Its daily journey from east to west painted a mental map on the landscape for every hunting party or foraging group. The position of sunrise behind a familiar mountain peak and sunset over a specific river bend created a reliable frame of reference for daily travel, a celestial pattern so deeply ingrained it became second nature. This intimate connection wove time and space into a single, navigable fabric. To know where you were, you only needed to know when you were. and just as the sun set each evening, another, more subtle guide would rise to take its place. While the sun ruled the day, the moon governed the night with its own silent rhythm. Its predictable transformation from a thin crescent to a brilliant full disk and back again provided a reliable 29-day calendar in the sky. This cycle was more than just a light source, it was a fundamental clock for nocturnal travel. A hunter following a path by night could gauge the passage of time by how much of the moon's face was illuminated, knowing precisely how many hours of darkness remained. But the moon offered more than just light and time, its very path was a map. As it orbits our world, the moon passes in front of a different backdrop of stars each night. A skilled observer could use these nightly conjunctions for orientation, watching the moon glide past a familiar constellation and using that alignment to confirm their direction or even their location. This created a secondary moving star map that unfolded over weeks and months. For coastal peoples and island explorers, the moon's influence was even more direct and powerful. Its gravitational pull commands the ocean's tides. Understanding this rhythm was a matter of survival. It told them the perfect time to launch their heavy canoes on a high tide, to navigate a treacherous reef passage only when it was deep enough, or to safely forage along a shoreline that would be submerged hours later. This knowledge was woven into the fabric of culture through myth. Across the world, the moon was personified as a great traveler, a silent guide, or a watchful eye moving through the heavens. These stories were not mere fantasies, they were memory codes, ensuring that the critical data of tidal patterns and lunar cycles was preserved and passed on through generations in songs and fireside tales. The moon was a dependable companion, its silent, rhythmic dance a constant reassurance in the vast darkness. But the sky held other, more unpredictable travelers that also captured the attention of ancient watchers. Amid the fixed patterns of the constellations, 5 brilliant points of light refused to stay still. These wandering stars, the planets Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, traced their own complex paths against the stellar backdrop. While their motion was less constant, ancient sky watchers learned to predict their loops and pauses, adding a dynamic new layer to their celestial maps. The most prominent of these was Venus, shining with such intensity that it cast shadows. It appeared faithfully as the evening star, hanging in the western sky after sunset, and then later as the morning star, heralding the dawn in the east. This predictable cycle made it a powerful beacon for timing. A traveler could use its appearance to know it was time to make camp for the night, or to begin a journey at first light. The other planets also had their roles. Mars, with its distinct reddish hue, and Jupiter, a steady, brilliant white, moved through the zodiac constellations in grand, years-long cycles. Their occasional retrograde motion, where they appear to reverse course in the sky, was not seen as an error but as a meaningful sign. In many cultures, these wanderers were viewed as divine messengers or the spirits of ancestral guides. Their positions were interpreted as omens, potentially advising a chieftain to delay a trading expedition until Jupiter moved into a more favorable constellation, or to launch a migration when Venus rose as the morning star. This was not superstition, it was a sophisticated form of data analysis. By watching these celestial messengers, navigators added a temporal and spiritual dimension to their journeys, believing the sky itself was communicating the most auspicious time to travel. Though they wandered, their paths were ultimately predictable, enriching the navigator's toolkit with a living, moving intelligence. And just as individual planets told their own stories, the constellations themselves wove these celestial clues into epic narratives that spanned the entire heavens. These constellations were the original story maps, turning abstract pinpricks of light into a familiar and traversable territory. entire star patterns acted as immense mnemonic devices, carving the vast dome of the night into manageable, memorable segments. Consider the great hunter Orion, a figure recognized by cultures from the Mediterranean to the Americas. His three brilliantly aligned belt stars do more than outline a waist. They point like a celestial arrow directly toward Sirius, the brightest star in the entire sky. In the depths of winter, when Orion stood high and dominant, a traveler could lock onto this single, unmistakable pattern and instantly know their direction. This was the genius of constellation cartography. The sky was not a random collection of dots, but a storybook written in light, where every hero, animal, and object represented a route or a destination. The scorpion chasing the hunter, the great bear circling the pole, the swan flying along the river of the Milky Way, these were not just fanciful tales. They were narrative anchors, ensuring that the critical relationships between stars were never forgotten. A navigator did not need to memorize hundreds of individual stars, only a dozen or so key shapes and the stories that connected them. By learning that the tip of the Great Bear's tail led to the North Star, or that following the curve of its handle pointed the way to the brilliant star Arcturus, they could traverse the sky mentally, hopping from one celestial landmark to the next until they had charted a course from horizon to horizon. This mythological mapping transformed the intimidating void above into a known and populated landscape, a mental territory as real and navigable as the earth below. But how was this immense and intricate knowledge preserved and taught across generations without a single written chart? This celestial storybook was preserved not on parchment, but in the minds and voices of the people. Without a single written word, entire cultures maintained flawless maps of the heavens through the power of oral tradition. These were not casual campfire tales, but rigorously structured living libraries. A master navigator's memory was a vast and precise database. For the Polynesian Voyagers, this took the form of the star compass, a mental construct of the horizon divided into 32 directional houses. Each house was defined not by a magnetic bearing, but by the specific point where a key star would rise and set. A single navigational chant, passed down from teacher to student over years of intense apprenticeship, could list the sequence of these stellar landmarks for an entire ocean voyage. The chant itself was the map, its rhythm mimicking the motion of the canoe over the waves, its lyrics encoding the precise celestial data needed to find a tiny island after weeks of seeing nothing but open water. This knowledge was so vital, so powerful, that it was treated with the utmost gravity. A mistake in a single line could mean a voyage lost forever. This is why the training was so long and demanding, ensuring that only those with impeccable memory and deep understanding earned the right to guide their people. But how do you make such dry, technical data unforgettable? You wrap it in an epic story. The myth of the great hero Maui fishing up the islands from the sea was not just a fantastic legend, it was a spatial anchor. It connected the real geography of the islands to a cosmic drama, making their relative positions impossible to forget. The story of the seven sisters, the Pleiades, fleeing across the sky, told you not only where to find that star cluster, but also signaled the start of the planting season when it first appeared at dawn. This was the true genius of prehistoric science, a seamless fusion of empirical observation and narrative art. The data was embedded in the story, and the story gave the data meaning and longevity. It transformed cold astronomy into a warm, human epic, ensuring that the sky routes were remembered for thousands of years. We can still find echoes of these ancient living libraries etched not in song, but in stone. These ancient observatories were not isolated temples, but nodes in a vast continent-spanning network. From the sprawling alignments of Karnak in France, where thousands of standing stones march across the landscape, to the intricate solar and lunar temples of Mnajdra on Malta, these monuments anchored the celestial map to the Earth itself. Their construction was an act of cosmic surveying on a grand scale. The massive stones were positioned with breathtaking precision to frame the solstice sunrises or to capture the light of the moon at its most extreme northern and southern setting points. For a traveler moving across a landscape with no roads or signs, these sites were more than just sacred spaces, they were celestial confirmation points. Arriving at a known stone circle on a specific day of the year and witnessing the sunrise align perfectly with a central heel stone was like checking a cosmic clock and compass simultaneously. It verified your location, confirmed the date, and reassured you that you were on the correct path, a path laid down by the heavens. The sheer effort required to build these structures, often transporting multi-ton stones over dozens of miles, reveals a shared, sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics that spanned vast cultural distances. This was a unified language of stone and sky, a permanent record of the sky routes carved into the very bones of the land. It proves that prehistoric explorers were not just passive observers of the stars, but active engineers of their navigational reality. With this celestial terrestrial network firmly established in the Old World, we set our sights on the ultimate proving ground for ancient wayfinding. The vast Pacific was their proving ground, a watery desert spanning 10,000 miles where the Polynesian wayfinders performed miracles of navigation. These masters did not use a compass or a chart, they carried the entire ocean inside their minds. Their primary tool was the star compass, a mental construct of the horizon divided into 32 directional houses. Each house was defined by the exact point where a specific, bright star would rise and set. A navigator would memorize the entire sequence for their voyage, knowing that as one guiding star set ahead of their canoe, another would be rising behind them, creating an unbroken chain of celestial signposts through the night. But their genius went even deeper than following a star's path. They memorized the zenith stars, the specific stars that passed directly overhead of their target islands. If you were sailing to Hawaii, you knew that the star Arcturus was your zenith marker. As you sailed north, you would watch for it to climb higher and higher in the sky until it finally shone directly down upon you, a cosmic bull's-eye signaling you had reached your latitude. This was not passive stargazing, it was active, dynamic course correction. They understood that ocean currents could push their canoes silently off course, a drift imperceptible without a fixed reference. So they constantly cross-referenced their star bearings with other natural clues. The direction of dominant ocean swells, etched into their memory from childhood, served as a steady baseline. The flight patterns of certain seabirds, which always returned to land at dusk, could indicate an unseen island just beyond the horizon. Even the color and shape of clouds could betray the presence of a lagoon or a mountainous island lying ahead. This was a holistic science, a symphony of observation where the stars, the sea, and the air all sang the same song of direction. The knowledge was so sacred and complex that it took decades to master, passed from a master navigator to a single apprentice through chants that were in fact living maps. To forget a single line was to be lost forever. This celestial mastery allowed them to settle the last uninhabited corners of our planet, from Tahiti to Easter Island to New Zealand, in one of the most ambitious migrations in human history. Their story stands as a testament to the power of the human mind to internalize the cosmos. Now we turn from the endless blue of the Pacific to the stark white expanse of the Arctic, where another ancient culture learned to read a different set of sky roads under the shimmering curtain of the aurora. In the endless night of the Arctic winter, the sky does not offer a single guide, but an entire unchanging carousel of stars. Here, the sun vanishes for months, and survival depends on reading a different kind of celestial map. Indigenous peoples like the Inuit mastered this environment by focusing on the circumpolar stars, those constant companions that never dip below the horizon. These stars, including the ever-present Great Bear and Cassiopeia, wheel in a perfect, predictable circle around the pole. This rotation was not just a compass, but a 24-hour clock in the heavens. By observing which constellation was highest or lowest in its endless loop, a traveler could tell the time of night with astonishing accuracy, a critical skill when every hour of darkness was identical. Yet the sky offered more than just clockwork precision. The aurora borealis, with its silent, rippling curtains of green and red light, was a constant if enigmatic presence. While its shifting forms made it unreliable for precise direction, its general orientation often aligned with magnetic north. More importantly, it was woven deeply into the cultural fabric. Stories describe the lights as the spirits of ancestors playing a ball game with a walrus skull, or as torches held by guides illuminating the path to the afterlife. These myths transformed a terrifying, dark landscape into a known spiritual territory, providing profound psychological comfort and a sense of place. This celestial knowledge was never used in isolation. A hunter would combine the star clock overhead with the tactile intelligence of the land itself. He could read the direction of the prevailing wind in the sculpted shape of a snowdrift, knowing that the hard, sharp edge always faced north. He could interpret the behavior of a lone Arctic fox or the flight of a snow bunting as subtle indicators of distant open water or shelter. This was a complete sensory navigation system where the sky, the snow, and the animals all spoke the same silent language of survival. It stands as a powerful testament to human adaptability, proving that celestial wayfinding is not one rigid method, but a fluid art that molds itself to the contours of the earth. Under a different kind of vastness, the desert nomads faced their own celestial challenges, where the unblinking sun and the sharp, clear nights demanded a different kind of sky wisdom. Across the shifting sands of the Sahara, the stars were fixed points in a world without landmarks. For the Bedouin traders, survival depended on turning the night sky into a detailed itinerary. They did not navigate by single stars, but by entire constellations, using them to chart precise routes between scattered oases. The rising of certain stars above the horizon acted as a celestial signpost, signaling the correct bearing toward a distant well or a sheltered trading post. A specific star cluster appearing just before dawn might indicate the final push to a life-saving water source, its position a secret known only to those raised in the desert's harsh embrace. This knowledge was a form of currency as valuable as the goods their caravans carried, a closely guarded cultural treasure that enabled trade across thousands of miles of barren emptiness. On the other side of the world, under the same crystal-clear skies, the Aboriginal peoples of Australia developed an even more profound fusion of earth and sky. Their entire continent is mapped through songlines, intricate epic songs that are sung while traveling. These are not mere stories, they are living, navigational instructions. A songline describes the journey of an ancestral creator being, and as the being walked across the land during the Dreamtime, its path was mirrored by a corresponding journey across the heavens. To follow the songline for a journey south, you would sing the verses that describe the ancestral being's path, and these verses would also name the stars and constellations that the being placed in the sky above that specific part of the route. The land itself and the sky above it were two versions of the same map sung into existence. The clarity of the desert air was their canvas, offering an unobstructed view that allowed for this astonishingly detailed star lore to flourish. In both the Sahara and the outback, the sky was not a separate entity. It was an inseparable layer of the landscape itself, a celestial guidebook for traversing the most arid lands on Earth. From the desert to the ocean, from the Arctic to the forest, a universal pattern emerges from these diverse ways of seeing. These shared symbols reveal a deep, universal language written in the stars. Isolated cultures, separated by thousands of miles and vast oceans, often looked up and saw the same guiding figures. They almost universally conceived of a central axis, a cosmic pole around which the entire universe turned. In Norse mythology, this was Yggdrasil, the immense world tree whose roots and branches held the 9 realms. For Siberian shamans, it was a similar tree connecting the underworld, the earth, and the heavens. In the night sky, this abstract concept found its physical anchor in the North Star, the unmoving pivot, or in the Southern Cross pointing toward the invisible Southern Pole. This was more than a navigational aid, it was a profound psychological anchor. It gave every traveler, no matter how far from home, a fixed center to the cosmos, a guarantee of order in a seemingly chaotic world. Another powerful, recurring theme was the sun's daily journey from east to west, mirrored in countless myths as a story of life, death, and rebirth. The sun was born at dawn, reached its peak at noon, aged in the afternoon, died at sunset, and traveled through the underworld at night to be born again the next morning. This cycle did not just dictate when to travel, it infused the very act of exploration with spiritual meaning. A journey was a miniature version of the sun's epic voyage, a cycle of departure, trials, and hopeful return. These patterns suggest that our ancestors did not see a separation between the practical and the sacred. Navigating by a star was simultaneously a technical act and a spiritual communion. The sky was not a cold map of distant lights, it was a living, breathing part of their environment, intimately connected to their myths, their identity, and their survival. To truly understand their genius, we must now learn to read their maps with the same practical eyes they used. You can still use your own hand to measure the sky, just as the first explorers did. Hold your arm out fully and make a fist. The width of that fist from your knuckles to the tip of your thumb covers about 10 degrees of the night sky. For a smaller measurement, the width of your thumb at the same distance is roughly 2 degrees. This simple tool allows you to track the movement of constellations or gauge the distance between celestial landmarks with surprising accuracy. If you ever find yourself under a clear night sky without the familiar guide of the North Star, look for the distinct W shape of Cassiopeia. This constellation mirrors the Big Dipper on the opposite side of the celestial pole. By visualizing a line from the central point of the W toward the general area where the Big Dipper would be, you can effectively triangulate the location of true north, even when Polaris itself is obscured by clouds or terrain. Another fundamental technique relies on the sky's constant rotation. Find a clear horizon and simply watch. Identify one bright star that is newly rising and another that is beginning to set. The line between these 2 points creates a reliable east-west axis. Once you have established this baseline, finding north and south becomes a simple matter of turning 90 degrees. Practicing these methods does more than teach you a skill. It forges a direct, visceral link to the past. Standing under the same stars and using the same bodily measurements, you are no longer just learning about ancient travelers, you are sharing a fraction of their experience. The gap of thousands of years suddenly feels smaller, bridged by the timeless act of reaching a hand toward the heavens. This intimate, hands-on knowledge was the starting point, but the human drive to preserve and perfect it led to the next great leap. The first attempts to etch these celestial pathways into something more permanent than memory. The human urge to make the sky's map permanent began with marks on stone. petroglyphs etched into cliff faces and cave walls are the earliest surviving star charts. At a site in North America, a spiraling pattern of dots perfectly mirrors the Pleiades star cluster, a celestial marker that told ancestors when to plant and when to harvest. In Scandinavia, rock art depicts ships sailing not on waves, but along a band of stars, the Milky Way, portraying the sky as a literal river of souls. These were not casual doodles, they were durable records, fixing celestial patterns to the unmoving earth for generations who would never know the original carver. This act of carving transformed abstract knowledge into a shared physical object, a communal reference point that could outlive any single memory. The next leap in this celestial cartography was both beautiful and portable. The Nebra sky disk, cast from bronze and inlaid with gold, is a stunning artifact from Central Europe dating back some 3,600 years. It shows a crescent moon, a full moon or sun, and a cluster of stars recognized as the Pleiades, but its true genius lies in its adjustable nature. Along the disk's edge are arcs, which experts believe were used to calculate the critical difference between the solar and lunar years. This was not a simple picture, it was a sophisticated analog computer, a device that could harmonize the calendar of the sky with the needs of the farming and ritual year. These first maps existed in a world where science and spirit were one. A stone circle that marked the solstice was also a temple. A disk that calculated the moon's phases was also a sacred object. The practical need to navigate and the spiritual need to understand humanity's place in the cosmos were satisfied by the same brilliant technology. By translating the sky into stone and metal, our ancestors took a crucial step. They externalized their memory, creating tools that could be seen, touched, and passed down. This act of making the cosmic concrete fundamentally changed our relationship with the heavens, turning a personal skill into a collective inheritance. It also changed the navigator, who now carried not just memory, but a profound and unshakable sense of place beneath the infinite stars. A master navigator's mind was a living vessel, constantly in motion even when the canoe was still. This was not passive observation, but an active, dynamic processing of the world. They practiced a form of mental dead reckoning, holding a precise image of their starting point, and then continuously tracking their speed, direction, and time travel to plot their current position on a mental chart of the ocean. Every shift in the constellation's height, every subtle change in the rhythm of the ocean swells against the hull. Every hour that passed was a data point fed into this internal calculation. It required a ferocious concentration, an ability to shut out fatigue and fear to remain locked in a state of hyper-awareness for weeks on end. This intense focus forged a phenomenal memory, capable of holding vast sequences of star paths, wave patterns, and bird behaviors without a single written note. The weight of this knowledge was immense, for the navigator carried the lives of the entire crew and the future of their community. This responsibility bred a profound humility. You were not conquering the ocean, you were learning to listen to it, to earn your passage through a respectful understanding of its rhythms and the sky's guidance. It was a practice that wove patience and reverence directly into the human spirit, a stark contrast to the instantaneous answers of a modern GPS. This deep, intuitive connection allowed them to perceive clues invisible to the untrained eye. The ocean itself spoke a language they had learned to understand. This seamless fusion of earth and sky transformed the world into a living, breathing map. A master navigator never trusted a single source of information, instead weaving celestial data with a constant stream of environmental clues. High above, the predictable flight paths of migratory birds served as aerial road signs. A flock of terns flying steadily in one direction at dusk almost certainly pointed toward a distant island where they would roost. their movements a moving confirmation of the course suggested by the stars. For those on the open ocean, the sea itself offered its own language. The sudden appearance of certain land-nesting seabirds, whose maximum flight range from shore was well known, created an invisible radius of safety, a circle of certainty within the vast blue unknown. Even the ocean's color provided vital intelligence. A dark, indigo hue signaled profound depths, while a shift to a lighter, greener tint could mean a shallow reef or an approaching island, its lagoon reflecting up from the seabed. The clouds, too, told stories. A stationary cumulus cloud gathering over a specific point on the horizon often betrayed the presence of an unseen volcanic island, its peaks creating their own weather. The very smell of the wind could change, carrying the scent of earth or flowering vegetation from a landfall still dozens of miles away. This was not guesswork, it was a rigorous, multi-sensory science. Every piece of data, from the grand sweep of the constellations to the subtle behavior of a single bird, was a cross-check against the others, creating a robust and fail-safe navigation system. This holistic understanding reveals a profound truth. Our ancestors did not just live in their environment, they were in constant, intelligent conversation with it. One legendary journey stands as the ultimate testament to this ancient art of wayfinding. The legend of St. Brendan sailing the Atlantic in a boat made of leather and wood is more than a mere fable. It is a celestial roadmap dressed in the robes of faith. In the 6th century, this Irish monk and his crew are said to have set out in a currach, a vessel stretched with ox hide over a wooden frame, embarking on a westward quest for the promised land of the saints. Their only compass was the sky. Medieval texts recount how they navigated, not by the sun alone, but by the specific guidance of stars that would lead them to their blessed destination. They followed a certain bright star, much like the wise men of biblical lore, trusting its fixed position to guide them across the trackless ocean. Their journey was punctuated by encounters with fantastic islands, some of which scholars now suggest could be interpretations of real phenomena seen through a mystical lens. An island of fire, for instance, might describe a volcanic eruption witnessed from a safe distance at sea. A crystalline pillar reaching to the heavens could be a poetic rendering of the shimmering aurora borealis, its curtains of light appearing as a solid, divine architecture in the northern darkness. This was not a journey of pure science, but one of profound faith, where every star was a sign from God and every successful landfall was a miracle. The celestial guidance and the divine providence were one and the same, a unified force that gave medieval explorers the courage to push beyond the known world. Brendan's story is a vital bridge, connecting the instinctual sky reading of prehistoric times to the recorded voyages that would eventually reshape the world map. It shows us that the motivation to explore has always been a blend of the practical and the spiritual, the chart and the prayer. And from the realm of such powerful legends, we inevitably seek the physical objects, the crafted instruments that turned celestial faith into repeatable science. The leap from pure memory to physical tools marks a quiet revolution in our relationship with the sky. While no intricate devices from these ancient voyages survived the millennia, we can reconstruct the likely instruments that sharpened their celestial sight. The simplest of these was the sighting stick. Imagine a straight rod planted firmly in the earth, its top aligned with a specific notch in a distant mountain ridge. By sighting along this stick as a particular star rose precisely over that notch, a navigator could establish a fixed bearing, a celestial highway marker that could be returned to season after season, year after year. This turned a one-time observation into a permanent, repeatable datum point. For those on the open water, a simple bowl of water offered a profound advantage. On the shifting deck of a canoe, finding the true horizon is nearly impossible. But a bowl filled with water creates its own perfectly flat, artificial horizon. By observing the reflection of a star in its still surface, or measuring the angle between the real star and its reflection, a navigator could gauge its altitude with far greater accuracy, a crucial measurement for determining latitude. How do they track time across a voyage lasting weeks? A notched bone or a tally stick served as a portable calendar. Each groove could represent a single night, allowing a traveler to physically count the passage of time, to track the phases of the moon, or to mark the days until a critical star would make its annual reappearance in the dawn sky. These were not complex machines, but they were brilliant extensions of human perception. They transformed fleeting celestial events into something tangible, something that could be measured, counted, and verified. A sighting stick fixed the sky to the land, a water bowl steadied the horizon on a restless sea, and a notched bone gave physical form to the flow of time. With these rudimentary aids, abstract knowledge became a reliable, repeatable practice, amplifying the innate genius of the master navigator. These simple tools demystify their epic journeys, showing us that their success was built on both profound wisdom and practical innovation. Yet for all we can reconstruct, the deepest secrets of their art sailed with them into history, leaving us with tantalizing mysteries that still whisper on the wind. Even with all we have reconstructed, profound mysteries of ancient travel remain. The initial peopling of the Americas stands as one of history's great navigational puzzles. The first people did not simply wander across a land bridge. They successfully traversed a vast, icy landscape known as Beringia, and then exploded southward with astonishing speed. Did they follow an interior ice-free corridor, or were theirs coastal migrations, hopping from one resource-rich haven to the next in skin boats? If they traveled along the coast, their celestial map would have been entirely unique, guided by stars rising over a Pacific horizon we can no longer see from that lost world. They were reading a sky road for which we have no surviving guidebook, their knowledge as lost as the coastal landscapes they once navigated. Then there is the puzzle of Madagascar. This island, a stone's throw from Africa, was not settled by Africans, but by Austronesian voyagers from Borneo, thousands of miles across the open Indian Ocean. We know the general direction of their journey, but the precise star paths they followed, the zenith stars that crowned their destination, the chants that held the course, these are ghosts in the historical record. The voyage itself is a fact, but the celestial instructions that made it possible have vanished from human memory. These enigmas are humbling. They suggest that prehistoric explorers possessed insights and refined techniques we have yet to fully comprehend. What other sky routes have been entirely forgotten? What subtle clues in the ocean's swell or the flight of a bird did they understand that we have overlooked? This is not a closed chapter of history, but a vibrant and evolving field of discovery. Every unanswered question is a reminder of the vast, silent library of human knowledge that has been lost, compelling us to look up at the stars with a renewed sense of wonder and a recognition of what we, in our modern world, may have sacrificed for our convenience. Our glowing screens now tell us exactly where we are, but they cannot tell us where we belong. We have traded a living dialogue with the cosmos for the silent, passive reception of coordinates from satellites orbiting high above the atmosphere. This is a fundamental change in the human condition. For thousands of generations, knowing your location was an active, sensory process, a constant negotiation between your body, the land, and the turning sky. Today, it is a piece of data received on demand. We have outsourced one of our most ancient relationships, and in the process, we have lost the stories that once made the universe feel like home. The myths of the Great Bear and the Celestial Hunter are no longer vital navigational aids, but distant curiosities, their power fading as the need for them vanishes. This is more than a loss of skill. It is a silencing of a language that connected us to the depth of time and the breadth of the world. Yet a quiet rebellion is underway, a yearning to remember what we have forgotten. The Polynesian Voyaging Society did not just build a canoe, they built a time machine. Their double-hulled vessel, the Hokulea, is a classroom without walls. Its voyages across the Pacific are not reenactments, but living resurrections of knowledge, guided by navigators who have painstakingly relearned to read the stars, the swells, and the flight of birds. They sail to prove that the old ways still work, that the sky routes are still there, waiting for anyone willing to learn their language. This is not about rejecting modern technology, but about recovering a vital part of our humanity. To look up and know your way by the stars is to feel a profound sense of place in the cosmos, a visceral understanding that you are part of a vast, beautiful, and intelligible system. It is to reclaim a sense of wonder that GPS coordinates can never provide. The future of this ancient art may not lie in replacing our devices, but in complementing them, in using this recovered wisdom to build a world where we are once again truly present, guided by the oldest map we will ever know. The same stars that guided canoes across the Pacific now orient spacecraft between planets. Modern star trackers are the direct descendants of the ancient navigators' art, high-tech eyes that lock onto the unchanging patterns of distant suns to hold a spaceship on course through the absolute blackness. In the trackless void, just as on the featureless sea, the fixed constellations provide the only reliable reference points. This is a profound continuity, a thread of human logic stretching from the first Voyagers to the edge of our solar system. The challenge of a journey to Mars mirrors the epic voyages of the Polynesians in startling ways. Both are missions of immense duration with no possibility of resupply, where every resource must be managed and every system must function with flawless self-reliance. The crew, isolated for months or years, must possess the same mental fortitude as the ancient Wayfinder, a calm patience and a deep, unshakable awareness of their place in a vast cosmic system. They cannot simply rely on a constant stream of data from home, any more than a canoe in mid-ocean could. They must be the masters of their own vessel, capable of celestial course correction using the sun and stars as their primary guides. This is the navigator's mindset, a fusion of intense technical skill with a profound, almost spiritual connection to the cosmos. It is a recognition that we are not conquering space, but learning to travel through it respectfully, using the oldest map we have. The sky routes of prehistory are not relics. They are a training ground for the human spirit, preparing us to navigate the next great ocean of stars. So what are the fundamental skills that made this possible, the core principles that allowed humanity to map the world? A master navigator's mind was a living instrument, finely tuned to the rhythms of the cosmos. The first and most vital skill was an encyclopedic memory capable of holding hundreds of star paths, the precise sequence of constellations for a multi-week voyage, and the exact zenith star for every destination. This was not rote memorization, but a dynamic understanding of how the celestial sphere turned through the seasons. They knew which guiding star would set as another rose, creating an unbroken chain of luminous waypoints through the night. But memory alone was not enough. It was paired with an almost supernatural level of observation. A navigator could detect a subtle shift in the rhythm of ocean swells against the hull, a change imperceptible to anyone else, indicating a hidden current pushing them silently off course. They could read the specific flight patterns of a lone tern at dusk, knowing its direction pointed toward an unseen island. They could interpret the color of the water, the shape of clouds on the horizon, even the smell of the wind, weaving these disparate clues into a single, coherent picture of their position. This constant stream of sensory data was processed through a powerful mental model, a kind of internal chart where the navigator continuously updated their location through dead reckoning. They held the image of their starting point and their destination firmly in mind, tracking their speed and direction over time to always know their place on the vast, empty ocean. This intense cognitive work demanded profound patience. A true navigator knew that rushing was a path to disaster. They understood the virtue of waiting, sometimes for days, for the right celestial conditions, for a cloud bank to clear and reveal a critical star, or for the moon to rise and illuminate the sea's texture. This mental and spiritual discipline was matched by sheer physical endurance. They withstood weeks of exposure to sun, salt, and storm, their bodies conditioned to function on minimal sleep and food while maintaining absolute focus. All of this was bound together with deep psychological resilience. The weight of entire communities rested on their judgment. In the face of fear, doubt, and the utter disorientation of a starless night, they had to project unwavering confidence, leading their crew through the unknown with nothing but their knowledge and their will. This rare fusion of intellect, physical fortitude, and spiritual calm made the navigator more than a traveler. They were a living library, a human compass, and a revered bridge between the human world and the cosmic order. To understand the full scope of their mastery is to finally grasp the true scale of their achievement, a legacy written not in ink, but in the very patterns of the stars we still see today. Our journey ends where it began, beneath the infinite dome of the night sky, but we now see it through different eyes. We have uncovered a lost world of incredible sophistication, a time when the heavens were not a distant mystery but a living map, a clock, and a compass all in one. This was a unified system of knowledge, from the steadfast North Star that anchored northern migrations to the Southern Cross that guided voyagers across the Pacific. We have traced these sky roads from the stone circles that fixed the sun's path in granite to the open canoes where navigators held entire oceans in their minds. This story reveals a universal human impulse, a deep-seated drive to explore the unknown, guided by the cosmos itself. The true legacy of this ancient wisdom is not just in the routes they traveled, but in the mindset they cultivated. It teaches us profound lessons in resilience, showing how to navigate uncertainty with patience and keen observation. It reminds us of our fundamental connection to the natural world, a relationship built on dialogue rather than dominance. In our fast-paced, technology-saturated world where answers are delivered instantly to our palms, these are powerful antidotes. The next time you find yourself beneath a starry night, pause for a moment. Look up at those familiar patterns. Remember that you are gazing upon the same celestial routes, the very same constellations that guided the greatest journeys in human history. They are a silent inheritance, a map that is still there for anyone willing to learn its language. If this exploration into the myths and mysteries of our past has resonated with you, we would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to join us on our next journey into the forgotten corners of history.